The iron car baked under the relentless sun, and inside it, 23 children waited to be chosen or forgotten. By the time the shadows stretched long across the platform, only a few small figures remained. Hearts braced for another journey with no promise at the end. This is the story of the girl no one picked until one quiet rancher finally did. The Orphan train had been sitting on the rails for 3 long hours, heat turning the metal walls into a furnace. Inside, the children perched on wooden benches with hands folded tight in their laps, faces scrubbed raw by the matrons that morning. They had been told to smile, to sit straight, to look thankful, but gratitude felt like a stranger when you were displayed. Like livestock for strangers' approval, dust drifted through the open door in thin ribbons of light while outside the platform, hummed with murmurs, farmers in worn boots, women in pressed dresses, men with eyes that weighed and measured. They walked past slowly, studying faces, whispering decisions. "Picking," someone muttered. A tiny girl near the front was chosen first. A soft-faced woman stepped forward, signed a paper, and led her away without a backward glance. Then came a boy, then a pair of brothers, and with each departure the benches felt emptier, the silence heavier. Cassie sat at the very back, knees pulled tight, eyes fixed on the scarred floorboards. 12 years old and smaller than most, with stubborn dark hair and a dress patched more times than it had seams. She had ridden 3 trains to 3 towns, and every time she was the one left behind. "Sit up straight," a matron whispered sharply as she passed. "No one will take you looking like that." Cassie straightened, though she knew it wouldn't change anything. Couples glanced, then turned away. Too old, too slight, not what they needed. There was always a reason. When the sun dipped lower, only 4 children remained, Cassie among them, and the matron stepped onto the platform, clapping her hands. "Last call, folks. Train leaves in the morning." A few people approached half-heartedly. A man asked one boy's age and shook his head before walking off. Cassie felt the familiar tightness in her chest. She had learned long ago that tears only made people uneasy, and uneasy people never signed papers. Still, the weight pressed harder. "Nobody picked me," she whispered so softly the words barely existed. The matron began ushering them back when a voice cut through the air. "Wait!" Cassie lifted her head. A tall man stood near the edge of the platform under the awning's shade, denim faded, hat worn, pale blue eyes fixed on her. He didn't hurry, didn't smile, just watched as if time belonged to him. "Yes, sir?" the matron asked. He stepped forward, boots thudding on wood, gaze never leaving Cassie. "Ah," he said. "I'll take her." Cassie's breath caught. The matron blinked, glancing at the girl. "She's 12. A bit older than most families prefer, and small besides." "I didn't ask for a worker," the man replied evenly. "I said I'll take her." Paperwork appeared, questions asked. "Name Elias Kane, occupation rancher." "You have a wife?" "No." The matron frowned, then reminded him she was a ward, not a servant. He nodded once and signed. Cassie watched the pen move, heart pounding so loud it filled her ears. She didn't know if he was kind or cruel, only that he had chosen her when no one else had. "Go on, girl," the matron said. "You've got a home now." Cassie rose on trembling legs, gathered her small cloth sack, and stepped down. Elias waited beside a wagon without reaching for her, simply nodding toward it. The townspeople watched, some curious, some disapproving, but Cassie barely noticed. For the first time in years, someone had claimed her. Elias climbed onto the seat and offered his hand. His palm was rough yet steady as he helped her up. The wagon rolled away, the train shrinking behind them, and Cassie kept her eyes forward, watching dust swirl beneath the wheels. The ranch lay quiet beneath a wide sky, a single-room cabin, a leaning barn, a corral with 2 horses and a mule, and land stretching gold to the horizon. Elias stopped the wagon and glanced back. "Come on." Inside the cabin it was simple but neat. A bed, a table with 2 chairs, a stove, shelves of canned goods, a handful of books. "You take the bed," he said, setting his hat down. "I'll sleep in the barn till I add another room." Cassie blinked, unsure what to say. He built a fire, asked if she was hungry, and soon they ate beans, cornbread, and salted pork in companionable quiet. She felt his eyes studying her, not suspicious, just curious. Finally she asked, "Why did you pick me?" He paused, then said, "You reminded me of someone." After a moment he added, "My sister Anna." He told her about returning from the war to find their farm burned. Their parents gone, Anna barely alive after hiding in a cellar. She had lasted 3 days and made him promise he would help someone else who had no one. "I've tried for years," he said softly. "But today I saw you and knew." Cassie swallowed hard. "I'm not your sister. I know. I just want you to have a chance." She studied his face for a catch and found none, only quiet sadness. She told him about losing her parents to fever and believing for years it must somehow be her fault. "It isn't," he said, and for the first time she believed it. That night, after he stepped outside to sleep in the barn, Cassie lay beneath the cedar-scented quilt listening to the night sounds and realized she felt safe, not because the world had changed, but because someone had chosen her. Over the next 3 weeks, she learned the ranch's rhythm, feeding horses, sweeping floors, helping with small tasks, while Elias never asked more than she could give. He taught her to ride, to read the sky, to mend broken fence slats. Trust grew slowly like grass after rain. But in town, the whispers followed them, people murmuring that a single man raising a girl wasn't right. Elias ignored them, though his jaw tightened. One Sunday afternoon, the trouble finally arrived. Cassie was pulling weeds when 3 riders approached, the lead man wearing a silver star, Sheriff Grayson. Elias stepped from the barn, calm but alert. "Got a complaint," the sheriff said coolly. "About the girl?" Elias answered that the papers were legal. Grayson shrugged, saying it still looked wrong. "I'm here to take her to a proper family." Elias's voice dropped. "She's not going anywhere." The sheriff's hand hovered near his gun. "Step aside." Cassie's heart pounded as she stepped forward. "I want to stay," she said, voice shaking but firm. She told him Elias had given her a home when no one else would. After a long silence, Grayson said, "You've got a week. Kane, find a wife or I come back for the girl." Then he rode off, leaving dust and dread behind. That night Cassie couldn't sleep and found Elias on the porch staring into the dark. They talked quietly about fear, promises, and not giving up. At dawn, he rode into town seeking support from neighbors. Cassie spent the day working and waiting, worry twisting tighter with every hour until he finally returned at sunset, shoulders heavy. "I asked 12 people to stand with us," he said. "Only 3 said yes." He reached into his pocket and set a small hand-carved wooden horse on the table. "I made this for Anna the day before she died." Cassie stared at it, sensing the story wasn't finished yet. Cassie turned the little wooden horse over in her hands, tracing the worn edges where time had softened the grain. Elias watched her quietly, the lamplight catching the tired lines in his face. "I carried it all these years," he said, voice low, "thinking maybe one day I'd know who it was meant for." Cassie looked up, eyes bright but steady. Maybe it was always meant for someone who needed to know they weren't alone. Outside, the night settled deep and still, the kind of silence that feels like a held breath. The week passed slower than any Cassie could remember. Each sunrise felt borrowed, each sunset uncertain. But they filled the days anyway, mending fences, tending the animals, sharing quiet meals that felt more like home with every passing hour. When the 7th day came, Sheriff Grayson rode in just as the morning light spilled over the fields. This time 3 wagons followed behind him. The neighbors who had said yes climbed down. An older couple, Elias, once helped through a harsh winter, a widow whose roof he'd repaired, and a schoolteacher who believed every child deserved a choice. They stood beside Cassie and Elias without a word, but their presence spoke louder than any argument. Grayson studied the small crowd, his confidence faltering under their steady gaze. After a long moment he exhaled, tipped his hat once and turned his horse away. The dust settled, and with it the fear that had lingered for days. Cassie felt something loosen in her chest, something she hadn't realized she'd been holding for years. That evening, as the sun dipped gold across the fields, she placed the wooden horse on the cabin shelf. Elias leaned against the doorway, watching her. "Looks like it found its home," he said. Cassie smiled, small but certain. "So did I." And for the first time, the future didn't feel like a question. It felt like a road stretching wide and open, with someone beside her all the way.